Just have it on your agenda to build one new connection a day. You can just call someone you haven't talked to in a long time. You can meet someone on the street, genuinely care about what other people's lives and what they're doing are. Allow yourself to open up to build new connections, new people.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Love Gangster. I'm your host, Adrian Boysel, and today I have a very special episode with a really special guest. Somebody that I connected with a few years ago online who's made his way all the way to Sacramento for the very first time. This man is a fellow creative, fellow speaker, business owner, and agency owner. So with that all being said, I want to introduce you to Mr. Zach Coleman. How you doing, brother?
Welcome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, absolutely.
Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
being here. So, long travels, where are you from?
From Arizona, Phoenix. The
Nice.
Phoenix area. It's kind of like here,
Yeah.
where you said Sacramento and you have little suburbs, you know? So I live in Gilbert. So
I know where Gilbert is.
Yeah, I just call it Phoenix.
Very cool. And you're born and raised there?
No, I was born in Ohio, but moved to Phoenix when I was 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been there basically your whole life?
Basically, I just say I'm from Phoenix.
That's
yeah.
neat. That's really cool. Come from a big family, small family?
3 older sisters, dad, mom, of course, and yeah, you could call that big. You could call that big.
Oh, 3 sisters. What was that
a
like?
lot of nephews. A lot of
yeah.
nephews. It was pretty. Well, they're half sisters, so they weren't around too much when I was younger. I was kind of like an only child in so many ways. So that's what kind of put me in my grind of trying to like prove myself, you know, to my father. My dad was actually a retired NFL player.
Wow.
Way before I was born. His story, I'm not going to get too much into his story, but you know, I wanted to be just like him. So, you know, I played soccer, learned the ins and outs of kicking.
Nice.
You know, and then I got to college and realized, yeah, I haven't practiced enough in football, so I'm going to go a different direction. And just like most college students, which I actually 100% think is necessary, I took my time. I was going to go to the Art Institute. And then I was like, I don't want to be 50 years old and be making video games. I realized that quite early on. And then I fell into their visual communications program. I went to NAU for a year and I couldn't stand it. It was very artsy. But the program at ASU was very, hey, you have an undergrad and only like 30 people get accepted. We learned all the fundamentals. We learned all that. And then the upper grad program was more, hey, you're in a group. You have these projects. Like if you were in the real world, you have to do this. You have to work as a team. And I actually got into a special program called Innovation Space, which probably was my first sign that I was more of an entrepreneur, because I worked with engineers. I worked with, industrial designer. We developed like a product and did all the branding and all this stuff for an actual company. And then after that, you know, job hopped a lot.
Yeah.
It was kind of during the 2010 recession. So that was a little bit part of it.
Was that in the creative space or was that?
It was all in the creative space. So yeah, I worked for, a lot of smaller companies. I worked for a print shop for a little over a year. Okay. Finally got what I consider to be my dream job, which was working for the Phoenix Suns, because my goal was to go to the NFL. Hence the dad story. My journey was still leading me to work in the sports realm in some way, form, or another. And I worked there for about a year and a half. Then kind of got to the point where I was like, I can't be here anymore. You don't really get paid a lot in the sports, because they're like, oh, free tickets. But 2, you couldn't enjoy the games anymore. I was out there looking in the arena, like looking at all this stuff. Like, I have to get that done by tomorrow. I have to get that done. And I ended up becoming freelancers for them. And then had another job, but then I moved to Pearson Education, and I worked as an art director there. Oh, wow. Working on a lot of their collateral for the colleges and all that stuff. Oh. And then I just got to the point where I call the honeypot syndrome, where I was like, I had a really good boss, I had a medium boss, and then I had a not so good boss within a 2-year period. And wow. I just realized, I'm like, I can do this better myself. And so I kind of...
what year was that?
That was 2000, man, time flies. It was 2000, beginning of 2017, okay. I'm pretty sure, when I decided to finally take the leap. What happened was, I was still a job hopper. You know, I still liked looking for not really a job hopper. I still like doing interviews because I was a people person and I didn't realize it at the time. I just enjoyed doing interviews to see what was out there.
Yeah.
And I got this opportunity to fly out to New York to do rebuild American Express's user frames. And so they were like, we're going to fly you out there. I got the job. It was from a contracting agency. They're like, they're going to pay for your flight, your hotel for 6 months. Basically, I was going to make double the amount I would have made in a year's salary in 6 months. But I didn't take it because of my fear of, what am I going to do after that, right?
And fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. So I took a couple days and I reached back out and said, I changed my mind. Is it still available? And they said, sorry, we gave it to somebody else. But that was a good learning experience for me because that put me in a spot where, you know what, like, even though it looks like a negative situation, it propelled me to be like, I have to go out on my own at this point. Like, I can't let that fear take over. So
burn the ships.
I was smart. I didn't just quit. I said, all right, I'm going to wait for my 2 years at this place, which was about a month and a half away. So I gave my 2-week notice around that time. And I still remember that drive home and being like, wait a minute. I actually have more control now that I'm on my own than I do at the corporate job. It's like a weird mindset. It doesn't happen, I think, until you actually take that leap.
For sure.
I had about 30 grand saved up over the years of freelancing. And I'm like, I'm going to give it a year and see what happens. And I had a freelance gig that I piled on, making like $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And I did that for like
the supplemental income.
The supplement. I basically said, all right, I'm going to make $2,000 a month. That's going to be my paycheck. Because my goal was just, if I can keep this 30 in the bank for as long as possible, right? Yep. And I think it just kind of grew from there. Wow. Slowly started taking on from connections and building relationships, taking on clients. I got to the point, me being a brander at heart and a visual communicator, I was like, well, I can't rebrand myself every 2 years.
Yeah.
It's very common for us to want to rebrand. And so I started taking on SEO and PPC. I was already doing web development. So I took on those as a supplement, like my integrator side, like technical side, like, it gets me working on my brand without necessarily working on my brand, right?
Makes sense.
And so I started doing that, and the marketing side just kind of grew more so than the branding side. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of been my journey.
Wow.
Up until probably 2020, where I had my first 80-20 client. As if anyone doesn't know what an 80-20 client is, it's the person that's paying most of your bills.
That's right.
Basically tell me, hey, we didn't make any money in 2020. We have to cut all our expenses. And of course, they did it in 2021 at January 1st. So I couldn't do any sort of, what's it called, the stipend or whatever. So I had to build back up from there. So I got up to about 30 grand a month from there. And then I kind of had to rebuild that back up. And then I just got to a place where normal marketing woes, right? I was trying to figure out my team, trying to figure out, all right, now I need to start bringing on people to work for me. I already had people working for me, and that can kind of go in when we talk about my pillars a little bit, but I was more of just a glorified manager.
Got it.
Get the job, they would do it. I started bringing people in from the States, and I realized that this wasn't the time for me to bring on doers at that kind of price point.
Yeah.
So I had to take a shift back, and then I had to go back, and now I have a team of, 8 or 9 people. I'm very passionate about the Hispanic culture. My wife's Hispanic. Sweet. Of course, my 3 children are then. Yeah. And so being in Arizona too, and having a lot of Hispanic type businesses that have the language, I was like, hey, maybe it's best that I find a place in Mexico that I could start building my culture, so I could start building a thing there. So now I have a team of about 7 or 8. I have about 2 in Arizona, 2 employees, 1 here. And then I have 3 here, and then about 5 or 6 in Mexico right now.
That's neat.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. But I'm kind of at that place. I'm kind of at that place where I'm ready to evolve. I'm ready to grow. And I'm ready to teach.
There we go.
I think with the kids.
I've noticed that about your stuff over the last few years is you seem to be stepping more and more to that teacher role. We'll cover more of that, but I want to unpack some of the stuff you said because it's not often I get to sit with another designer who is just incredibly talented as a designer, but also had a completely different path that I walked down, right? I didn't go to college. I'm completely self-taught, right? I didn't hop from job to job. My design career started with me basically doing it as a hobby and then burning the ships and saying, you know what? I'm not working for anybody else. I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm going to build a business around this, and I'm going to go out and get clients, and I'm going to go sell this as a service to companies, and I'm never going to work with anybody again. And my intention was, I wasn't looking to become rich. I wasn't looking to become even wealthy. I just wanted to make enough money so that I could do design. Right? I grew up my whole life drawing logos. I mean, I had a buddy of mine that connected with me on social media recently, and it was on Instagram specifically, and I posted something, and he's like, dude, it's been incredible to watch you since high school. I remember you drawing logos for bands and things like that in high school. And I had completely forgot that, like, I knew I was drawing logos and stuff, but I forgot, like, people in high school remembered that about me. And it was a trip to hear him say that, because that was my freshman year of high school. I went to school with him. And I was like, wow, I've been doing this for such a long time. So it was just such a natural thing for me to make that part of my career. And I remember when I was a kid, my stepmom was like, I don't know what you're going to do someday, but I know it's going to have something to do with computers and art. And like, dude, she nailed it. And I was like 8 years old when she said that to me. And so finally getting out of the nightlife business, getting out of the car business, the mortgage industry, and all the sales stuff that I was doing, I got a good foundation in sales. But once I knew how to like sell from a technical standpoint, I was already such a natural people person like yourself. I was like, if I can build relationships and get people to know me, like me, and trust me, get through the objections that everybody has some sort of objection that's not a real objection. It's some sort of limiting beliefs that they have. If I can overcome that and I do really good work, what's going to stop me? So my whole vision was like, as long as I don't have to go work for anybody else and I could do art and design, I'm set for life. I'll never have to worry about money. Never have to stress. I'm never going to be a rich person, right? Was all these limiting beliefs I had over myself around money. I'm never going to be a rich person. I'm not after that. I just want to help as many people as I can. And then I started that business, and 6 months later, I'm doing $30,000, $40,000 months. And I'm like, whoa, at 18, 19 years old. And I'm like, dude, what is happening right now? And so I had such a different experience, but I had to learn just by putting in so many reps and then finding inspirations that were out there, like the Jacob Casses, and there's a guy named Andy. He went by Andy Kitchen at the time. I'm forgetting his last name off the top of my head, but I looked at his work as a flyer designer. He was well known in this area as doing all the flyer designs for all the local bars, restaurants, and his nightlife flyers were just gorgeous. And I'm like, one of those people from a very young age, whether it was movies, music, video games, art, I could replicate and imitate them. I could imitate the voice, imitate the style, imitate the mannerisms, right? The trumps. Like, I've just been an imitator my whole life, and I've imitated my way to the top, right? I'll say that. But I started following the designers that I looked up to that I thought had the best designs, and just started taking pieces of their work. I'm like, oh, I like this effect that he does in the background. I like the way he does this with his fonts, and I like the font selection and how he pairs his fonts together. So I just started paying attention and noticing the patterns. That's at the root of what I am. I just notice patterns, and I notice consistencies of like the same mannerism over and over again, or the same, body language, right? And just certain things that they do. So I have emulated other great pieces of work into my own style, and that's how it just continued to evolve and grow. And because I'm so hungry and passionate and interested in growth, my desire to go figure out how to learn happened naturally. So I didn't need a college to like, you read this and then you go to this. And that's what I hear from people. And I'd love to get your perspective on this, is I hear a lot of people going to college because they weren't really taught in public school how to accurately and correctly learn. And so they go to college to learn and to try to find what it is that their passion and interest is. Well, I already knew what that was. And I knew how to learn. I knew how to pick up a book and figure out the information and reverse engineer a problem. I've always just been good at that. So for you, did you feel like college was a valuable tool for you? Or do you feel like if you were to go back and do it again, that you could do the same thing you're doing today and have taught yourself?
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, I totally look up to the people that don't go to college. Like for you, like your ability to learn and go out there and back engineer something. I mean, I can do that too,
Yeah.
but I do think college has a place. I think that college at the end of the day, I don't think it's about the learning. I think it's about the persistence of being able to do something for a certain period of time without switching your mindset towards something else.
That's smart.
And I think that's really what companies look for when they look for people, like, oh, you went to college for 4 years. Oh, you must be able to commit to this without switching to something else in
That's
2 weeks.
But the discipline and commitment.
I would never go to the library. I was always like, I needed to go to the buffet. I needed to go around other people. I needed the sounds actually make me concentrate better.
Wow.
Being around people. But so I was always like, I couldn't study too much because then I'd overthink it, and I couldn't study enough because then I wouldn't get the information. But the design classes I had, and that's why I fell in love with their program the most, was because it was all project based. There was no tests. It was always like, hey, you have your team of other 6 designers, and this was after the fundamental phase, but it was like, you have your team. We're going to give you guys a project, and some of them were on our own, but we'd have other group projects where it's like, okay, you have half a semester to come up with basically a campaign towards helping this certain problem. So figure out that problem. It was never about the programs. They were like, learn the programs yourself. We're not here to teach you the programs. So I thought it was, for my experience, I loved college. Now, when it comes to business, no, I don't think it helped at all. I've learned so much more in business doing it myself and learning and growing that it has forced me to want to learn more, right? You have to keep up with the environment, where college and even the corporate world, you're kind of put in this position where and that's why I realized I was job hopping so much. It's because I'd learn everything in 3 months. I'd be doing 2-3 times as much as everyone else. And I'm like, how am I remember at the very end of my stint at my last job at Pearson, I would check all the numbers, see how was everyone doing compared to me. I worked in Arizona, and they can't fire me now, so I'm going to say this: everyone else worked in Canada and Florida, so I was the only designer in the Arizona area. And I actually remember looking, and I was at like 160 jobs after, I don't remember the time frame, because if I did one a day, that's 6, so probably like 6 months. And everyone else was at like 90.
Wow.
And I'm like, they're at the place where the boss is. Somehow they're working 8-hour days, and they're getting half as much as I'm done. I'm here, and I'm taking a lunch, and because my boss wasn't there, I only worked 6-7 hours. I get about 7 in, but I never took a lunch. I never asked. I just kind of was like, I'll eat while I work, so I could do my own stuff. So I'd leave at like 3 because of the time difference. And I was like, there has to be a better way than this.
Your efficiency was so much higher in what they were doing, clearly. So for somebody that is watching this, that may be young, that is considering a design career, they're like, I don't know if I should just start watching tutorials and reading books and going down the self-taught path, or should I go to college and go get my degree for design? What would you say to that person should help them decide which direction to lean?
I would say it comes down to the program. I would say that, yeah, you can learn anything that you can learn online, you can learn online. But just like connecting with people and things that you can't do on a computer, if there's a program, and I think like Rhode Island, I know that Arizona State does it, of course, but there are certain programs that are like I remember my first semester at ASU, we had to cut out 25 by 25 millimeter squares, not with the scissors, but just learning how to mock up and stuff. And everyone would make fun of me. They're like, you're cutting out squares, but it had to be exact.
Yeah.
I had to use a ruler and X-Acto. I spent 3-4 weeks just like trying to get the perfect square. And so there are a lot of things, especially in design, that I still think are adamant. For instance, I won't hire a designer if they don't want to sketch, because I do think that getting away from the computer and actually sitting down and being able to sketch doesn't just save time, but it allows the brain to think, a lot like when you're meditating or like when you're, journaling. And so if they're like, I just do everything on computer, I'm like, you need to learn to sketch, man.
Has art always been a part of your life, and why design?
I think I'm a creative person at heart. Um, you know, me personally, and this can like lead up to how I kind of got my burnout and why I'm heading to where I'm going. But I was always a very creative person. But when I grew my business, I said the marketing side grew faster than the creative side. It's reoccurring. It's a smart move, but it also, I turned into an integrator slash manager type role. And I was like, why do I have this burnout? And I realized after a lot of exploration personally that I wasn't hitting my creative juices anymore. And so I needed to evolve. I needed to bring back my creative juices and funny enough, visionaries are usually pretty creative. And so I'm like, all right, just embrace the role, kind of move back to it. And yeah, I've just always been a very creative person. And I think that you'll know that you're creative if you're a creative person.
Oh yeah.
But I do definitely try to look at it from a business perspective, especially the design and the fundamentals of what we're trying to do for our clients. I get peeved when I hear people call it art because I'm like, there's a side, like my wife makes fun of me because my degree was a bachelor's of science.
Oh yeah.
And she got her bachelor's of science in science.
Yeah.
And so whenever she's like, yeah, it should be a bachelor's of arts. I'm like, no, there is a science behind good design and good communication.
100%.
Color theory, all that fun stuff.
Definitely. It's not science on a biological level like some other science. Like I heard the episode with Peter Thiel and Joe Rogan, and he was saying how computer science isn't science, which I thought was very interesting. But there is a science to it, and that was the big disconnect I had when I stepped into the more of the marketing world and less into design. And I was designing brochures and stuff for people. My mentor was like, what's the point of this brochure? And I'm like, to buy mattresses? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, where does it say to buy mattresses in here? And I was like, that's a great question. And I realized like a lot of information, but nothing that led anybody anywhere and nothing that was like, buy a mattress, right? Come check our store out. It was more just like self-gloating, self-promoting type stuff, which I see most designers doing. Most designers' content that they actually create when they're given the task to create the content is trash. They copy it from somebody else's stuff. They imitate other people's stuff that's low quality. And he was like, you're one of the best designers that I've ever met in my life. He's like, but the problem is he's like, you have a knack for marketing. He's like, but you don't have the science. You don't understand the science of marketing. And I'm like, what do you mean the science of marketing? He's like, analytical psychology. Everything that we do, logical, ethical, and emotional, is what drives these people in marketing. You may be doing design, but what you're actually doing is helping people make money. It's ROI. You're doing an ROI activity. So if you're not selling what you're doing as an ROI activity, you're just selling it as, look at this beautiful design I made. As an artist, you're going to be starving, or you're going to be the starving artist. But if you sell this as, hey, this is going to make you money, you're going to spend $1,000 on this campaign versus this project. And this campaign, I'm going to help you design it, do the content, do the imagery, do the calls to action, put the hooks in there, put everything you need in there. And then we're going to go out and disperse this and bring traffic to it. And that's going to convert at whatever. If you put it, this should make you $100,000 on this project. So don't you think I'm worth 10% of that? I'm putting it back on them like that. And they're like, yeah, you're worth, okay, so this project's going to be 10 grand. Now you go from selling an hourly 30, 40, 50, even $100 an hour design job at 10 hours or 20 hours to make a grand or two versus making 10 grand, right? You 3, 5, 10x your income off of doing it and positioning it that way. So when I started switching my gears, I was like, holy crap. I just sat next to that dude for 2 years and was like, all right, there's a science to marketing. And then I went really far down that rabbit hole. And that's all I've been studying, from Ultimate Sales Machine and all those things that I know you're up to speed on. So I think that makes a lot of sense from answering those questions of where to go to college versus getting a job, or not getting a job, but being self-taught. The curious part that I'm at now is you've stacked all these skills, right? And I like that. You're doing the marketing, you're doing the recurring services. Every designer is really a marketer when they break it down, and they should be following the demand. And that was one of the things he taught me. He's like, Adrian, follow the demand. There's supply and demand. Those are the two big things that most business owners miss, is they create a product that there's no demand for. I did that with Instagraphics. Like, I have no problem being open and clear about that. The stuff that I'm doing, that where I've reached in my career, is level 10. And the demand of what's actually out there for the design world is at a level 1. And I'm sitting here trying to sell a level 10 product to a bunch of level 1 people, and they're so far away from that. The gap is just too big. So I'm like, wait a minute, I need to change the brand of this. This needs to be skill stackers, and I need to reach beyond just even designers, beyond even entrepreneurs, and just go after professionals. Professionals who want to stack skills and learn how to use Canva, how to be a better designer, how to write copy, how to build websites, how to build funnels, and go broader with this thing. So I'm not up here, Mr. Level 10, trying to get everybody to come up and meet me where I'm at. And so I made that big switch, and I feel like I see you doing the same thing as an education thing. So like, what are you working on now? What is it that you're like, what's your vision for what you're doing now?
Well, first off, I want to say that is a hard mindset to switch. I'm in a very similar boat in that regard, where it's like, hey, like I know my skills and the quality that I can give to a certain audience, but they're not on that level yet. So how do I take a step back and try to think of how I can broaden my audience and help them with the smaller things, like I see you doing, right? To kind of make it to that first stage to make it up. And that's been a challenge that I still have. It's a hard one. I don't even think it's a hard one to crack. I think it's just an evolution, because I think as you grow, you know, eventually you'll make more and you'll make more, or not. But so will your audience, because then you're always going to be one step ahead of your audience. But, yeah, right now, you know, honestly, you know, within my business, I think, and people might hate me for saying this, but I truly believe that having a vision, when I hear a business developer come to me and say, what is your 10-year vision? I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we all evolve, we all grow, we all change. I kind of look at that as a personal rebrand. Like you're rebranding, you're evolving yourself. You have to get certain mindset. You have to have certain mindset shifts to make it to that next level.
For sure.
And that's kind of where I was at. I was kind of at a point where I'm like, I don't want to be a manager anymore. I want to be a leader.
Yeah.
And the only way I knew I could do that was, what was the biggest fear, or not even biggest fear? What was one thing that I never felt comfortable doing? Speaking. And speaking in person live.
Yeah.
You know, and so I took it upon myself to get a speaking coach and start working through that. And through that process, I found a very good coach, because he was more on how to integrate your personal life with your business life, you know. And before I had my kids, I was very much, my business is my baby. I'm going to grow. The more money I wanted to be seen and heard. And that was the fear was what was pushing me.
Got it.
But then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I no longer care about being seen.
That's exactly.
What now? Like,
that's where the real authority comes from.
Yeah. I don't care anymore. And so, and I mean, it's probably still there a little bit. I still have, of course, continue to work on it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's where the leadership, and that's where I started to say, hey, you know, I'm stuck behind a computer. I don't, and a part of this is what happened in 2020, but another part of it is, I think as designers, we're natural introverts. We want to sit and we want to do the work. Yep. And I was doing the same thing with marketing. I was marketing to people the way I market to my clients, which is completely different.
Totally different.
As a designer, as a developer, as a marketer, we're hitting a B2B market. We're not hitting a B2C market. And I don't care what anyone says. You can grow a B2B company online, but 99% of the time, it's going to be through meeting people, because you're signing $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 contracts, not, you know.
Well, you know, what's interesting, you said something that stuck out to me, and that was, you know, don't know where your 10-year vision is, right? And that's thinking really far ahead on the time horizon there. That's pretty far out. And I don't know where I'm going to specifically be in 10 years, but I do have my bullseye on the dartboard of exactly where I know I'm going. And so whether that's in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years from now, I just know that isn't going to change. But the road to get there and the different milestones that are going to happen, my only vision every day is to wake up and be 1% better than I was yesterday. push myself a little harder in the gym, push myself a little bit harder with the clients, try to refine my processes, try to be a better leader, try to be a better mentor, right? And just 1% better in these different areas of my life so that it's sustainable, right? Because I've tried the 40, 50, 60% growth in a day, and just kill myself. And then I burn myself out. And then I go a month or two where I'm just flat on my butt, right? Yeah. And so the long game, right, the tortoise and the hare kind of approach is much better. But what I have noticed is when you're clear about, okay, this is my 1 year, and usually it's about 3 years for me, is what I'm pretty clear about. Like I know in 1 year, I'm planning on exiting one of my brands. In 3 years, I plan on basically being financially retired where I will not have to work basically just before my 40th birthday. I will not have to work another day in my life if I don't want to, but I will never retire. And my brother and I had this conversation the other day where he's like, well, how much money do you need to make per month? Are you going to make per month? And I'm like, I only need to make X dollar amount per month. And he's like, is that enough to like pay for Sonny's college and for you to retire and for this and that? And I'm like, dude, that mindset right there is just so far off from where I am. Mm-hmm. I'll be working till the last breath that I have in my lungs. So my heart stops beating or whatever comes, I'm going to be working. I will not stop until I'm leaving this place to go home.
Well, because you get bored. And I have a business coach that basically said to me the other day, he's like, if you don't like doing marketing, then just sell your business and stay at home with your kids. And I'm like, I love my kids and I do have a big thing of work-life balance. I'm not trying to work 100 hours and grow a multi-million-dollar business right now. I'm looking to, grow slowly. I do have somewhat of a vision. I mean, we've recently, with the kids, I think that you just come to a point where you want to educate, you want to help, and it comes to other people in different ways. But for me, it was having my kids and realizing, man, there's more to this world than just sitting behind a computer. Right. And I want to leave a legacy for them, and I want to leave an impact for them. And so I do have a vision. I mean, my bigger agency, Creative, and that's the beauty with being in branding and marketing, is we can sub. That's and other people don't get it. They're like, well, that's a whole different business. I'm like, really, it's not, because I have a marketing team. I can just subset this over here. It's not that I don't like the marketing. My thing is with all of the SOPs and the stuff we develop, like we develop really good content for really big athletic driven brands. Nice. We create, we do a lot of, and we still have our local clients too that we work with, but, the marketing side for me wasn't where my vision was. It was the creative. I like building things. I love helping companies bring a vision to life, but I was past the point of just saying, hey, I'll give you a logo, because that doesn't change anything if it's not done properly. That's right. And so I'm trying to push myself into more of that consulting type role. Good. So I'm separating out Creative. Creative is going to be more of a branding and education style company where we'll develop basically high value websites and brands for companies. And we're taking our marketing and we're just basically saying, hey, marketing and branding are different. And I'm not trying to get off subject here, but sure. There are different types of audiences that purchase them too. That's true. And so the marketing, being a full service agency, was, from my perspective, lowering the value of our branding. Sure. AI's come along. I mean, you talk a lot about AI in your courses. And unfortunately, I think that the one thing this is actually good news. The thing that AI is going to do really good is it's going to weed out those people that want cheap services. Exactly. Because they'll just go get it. AI. Yep. But it's a commodity now. That's right. Content writing, all that's kind of a commodity. It's hard to differentiate marketing companies. Right. So that's why we're separating out, and we're fully going 100% into GymMark, which is with the marketing side, which is our offer values for leaders within the gym space that are making $500 or more a year. And we're coming on more of a consultant for them, but we're going at it from a different perspective. We're not going at it like Gym Launch. I'm not a fan of spray the wall to 1 million people and see what sticks. That's not my approach. Especially when you're a local brand and you don't really need sniper approach, man. Yeah. And so it's about finding your audience, figuring out your positioning, figuring out your experience, and then building your reputation up. And so That's all what Gym Mark's going to do, but they're both leading to one thing. I'm going to be opening a B2B style gym in about 10 years. I'm a community driven person. Gym Mark's going to turn in much more of a, what I would call it, I'll just say it like a mall for gyms.
Nice.
We're going to have a speaking stage. I'm going to have a gym that's going to be a studio, and then I'm going to have commercial spaces for business owners, because be honest, just like any other business,
Yeah.
gym owners don't want to crap where they eat. So they're going to need to go somewhere else.
Well, that's neat. There's a business in town that I worked with for a while that has a gym, wellness center, and then upstairs all the co-working and business suites. And that was a cool experience. There's just some shortcomings of the business model itself and having so many businesses inside that you have to try to market. You got to market a gym, you got to market a sauna, you got to market a cold plunge, you got to market, and it's, unless you have lots and lots and lots of money to throw that and you're willing to do that for a very long time, it's very expensive to market that. So I think just a gym and the offices would be really, really cool to have something like that. But you said something that sparked kind of a memory and a piece of advice that I was given a few years back, and I can't remember who it was, but it was kind of parlayed by another memory of that same mentor I've talked about a few times, Dighton Bradford. He had said to me, Adrian, I need this job like I need an extra 10 pounds, right? And he was a consultant like myself and you, where he would come in and he would consult the owner of this home services business on their content and their strategies and very scientific, marketing approach. And he did that. And the person we were working with at the time was very difficult personality. And the guy would treat him and myself like we needed his money because he was paying us a good amount of money. I made $140,000, $130,000 a year working 15 hours a week as a contractor, right? And then not including an extra probably close to $100,000 just in printing business that I was doing for him on a yearly basis. So it was a really good account. But because he had so much what he felt leverage over us, he would treat us like we were his employees. And that guy on a few occasions looked at him and said, hey, I need this job like I need an extra 10 pounds. And, he was an overweight guy, so it kind of made sense, and it was kind of a funny pun, but he was being real. And I realized there was just so much weight and so much power that leverage he was able to take back by approaching every client, every project, every person that he came into contact with is like, I want your business, but I don't need your business. And here are my boundaries. And if you cross into that, we're done. I don't care how much money you're paying me. And I've been able to run my business that way. And what that parlayed into, what I was thinking about while you were talking is, and we talked about this before the show, of kind of some of the challenges we've seen as being agency owners and it being a thankless job. This is one of the things I preach about, and I've done talks about this, is changing our mindsets even from, because we were trying to sell is, here's how you become a great designer and business owner and all that stuff and marketer. But what we're at now, we've actually kind of elevated to another level, is where we should really switch into the mindset of an investor, right? Where are we investing our resources, our time, our money, our heart, our skill sets, our talents, right? All these things that we are investing, these resources that we've been given, some of them that we've grown ourselves and stacked, and some of them that are just God-given talents that we have. And how are you going to use those to build the life that you want? Design your future, right? That's what my book's called for that reason, is you can design, just like we design for our clients, we can design our own future of how that's supposed to look. And so now I approach every relationship, every client. Like I had one just recently that was really challenging. And I called up the person that referred him to me. I was like, I'm about to fire this person, just to give you a heads up. I don't care how much money they're paying me. And I'm not afraid, because I know if that is not serving me, if it's stealing from me, if it's draining my energy, if it's taking my creativity away from me and my joy for what I'm doing, it could be $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, or $100,000 a month. It's not worth it. No amount of money is worth my peace. No amount of money. Someone could hand me $1 million in a briefcase right now and say, cool, you're going to be a slave to me for the next year and you're not going to get to see your family. I'm like, kick rocks, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need your $1 million.
I look at job postings every once in a while, just when I have those days, and I look at it for like 2 seconds and I'm like, yeah, it's not happening.
$26 an hour. What the heck is that? Like, dude, 1 hour with my daughter or $26. Yeah, no, like, you just weigh how valuable your time is. Like, okay, here's $1 million, but you can't wake up tomorrow if you take it. You're going to take the money, right? No one's going to take that. So I look at everything now as an investor. And as I'm kind of like reaching this place where I'm going into full-time content creator, I don't really I want that to kind of be my main, when people ask me what you do, I'm an investor, right? I don't have to be, I used to take so much pride in being a graphic designer or being a marketer or whatever. That isn't my identity anymore. And I think there's a big piece of that for creatives is like we have so much of our identity wrapped up in our design skills and our art that we can't let go of control. We have a hard time delegating. We have a hard time, just letting it be, because there has been designs where I'm like, ugh, and then it gets sent to the client and the client's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm like, okay, right? And it was done by somebody on my team. And I'm like, if the client's happy and I know they're going to get a good result, just because my taste doesn't like this, that doesn't mean that it's a bad design. So being able to let go of that control has really helped me a lot, and just try to be like, all right, I'm the business owner. I'm not the business operator. And it's given me a lot more freedom, a lot more peace, where I'm stepping out of all things and just trying to be that full-time content creator now. Is like, I just want to create.
Well, there's two stories I want to relay on that. Last year, I had a very similar situation to that. We are hitting a valley of death period in the business, and we got a $10,000 a month client, wellness company, great opportunity. We, of course, vetted him. I made sure he matched our values, signed a year contract. So we, of course, did all when you have a year contract, you push all the hours up front, right? So you can live off the rest for the rest of the time. But after 3 months, he was kind of a narcissist. He would be great on the phone, and then he tried to push us to performance based and said, we're 2.5 months in and the SEO is not working yet. Looking back, I realized he was just trying to cut us out because he hired this Amazon company to do it for really cheap. But I basically let him out of his contract. I basically was like, hey, I'm like, I'll spend more in counseling than I will make with this client. So, and he was hurting my values. He was trying to steal one of our employees to do it for him separately. And so I just got to the point when he was like trying to do all this stuff, and I didn't intentionally fire him. I intentionally, though, let him out of his contract, because I was like, I could have sued him for the other, I think he owed me another 80 grand. I could have. Yeah. And I thought about it, but I was like, I don't want to waste the energy. And it took me out of my growth cycle. It took me completely out. And so it was a risk. But I did it because I did not want to deal. And funny thing is he's a wellness company, which leads to the second point. The other story I was going to kind of talk about is, you're right, it's very hard to let go of control. But I don't look at it, I look at it a bit differently. I think us as creative people, or even entrepreneurs, we like to overserve. We overserve people because we care.
That's right.
And I got to a point where my mentor had to sit down with me and be like, so why are you allowing these people? Why are you overserving these people? It sounds like you're basically taking emotions that you have, that you should be having in your personal life, and you're projecting them on your business. He said, you don't need to overserve your clients. You don't need to, and as much as I'm purpose driven and I want to grow, it was this whole perspective of, oh, well, I want to help these people grow. I wanted this was causing me burnout. It wasn't even necessarily helping us grow. And he's like, you can do a job without having to have emotions behind it. Like, let your family be the ones that need you. Let them be the ones that want you.
That's right.
And work with them. And so I had to shift my emotional state of the business in general. It was no longer my baby. I don't want it to be my baby. It's a business, and I have to, and I still work with that, how to take the emotional tie out of it.
That's really hard.
So, it is really hard.
Because the subconscious runs a lot of our day-to-day. It's not even our conscious mind. You could do that on a conscious level and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be mindful. I'm not going to let my emotions, but then 2 days later, I'll find myself justifying my emotions with some sort of logic. That's like the common thing I always go do is like, I have this feeling towards something, and then I'm like, oh, but this, and this, and I'll come up with some sort of logical statement to back up how I'm feeling. And that could be really destructive to a business and steer you down the wrong direction, right?
Well, and I figured out that I was really just missing connection. Like, I love helping clients grow, but I mean, I want to grow too, man.
That's right.
I'm making you $4 or $5 million a year. I want that reciprocated in some way, form or possible. It's a trade here.
I'm changing your life. My life is either staying the same or getting worse.
Yeah.
This isn't a fair exchange.
Yeah.
It's got to be a win-win-win.
And that's more of a partnership and less so of a service-based contractor or service provider.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And it's wanting to work with those types of clients that want to look at you as a partner and value-based. It's the value-based type environment. Marketing, like I said earlier, I think marketing and branding have two different types of audiences, especially when you're dealing with brand identity, positioning, vision, all that stuff. That stuff doesn't usually happen in a business. It's a one-man show. That's right. Like I said, I'm just working on my vision, and I'm not there yet. I need to now because I have a team where I'm building a culture. Yeah. And so I had to shift my mindset away from the types of people I even work with. And to do that, I had to look at my connection side, and that's where my contribution side started to hit. That's right. I started, funny enough, going back to I lost my workouts. I lost my gym because I had 3 kids. I was in the office all the time. Yep. I didn't have a schedule. My time blocking was definitely not existent. Yeah. And once I started bringing back my personal time, which is, and my spiritual time, which for me was like meditation and, funny enough, writing. I'm not a great writer, but it allowed me to bring my creativity back. Yeah. I realized while I was in the gym, I was like, this is my audience. So I found my audience by doing what I love to do. I work with athletes. I always said I had a purpose to work with athletes, but, and I still do work with athletes, but from an emotional side, I realized that was my ego talking. Yeah. I was like, well, maybe I only wanted to work with athletes so I could tell people I worked with athletes.
It's good. That's good self-awareness and introspection right there. Yeah. So what does the future hold then for you, where you're going? I mean, you shared a little bit about that with the two divisions that you've got now that you're breaking apart, which I think is really smart. What do you see? What are you working on right now for the future that you're excited about?
Yeah, so like I said, we are continuing to build out Gym Mark right now, starting to work with gyms and help them make it to the next stage of their business growth. That's part of the Gym Mark side. The creative side, like I said, the education is huge for me. It brings an additional form of purpose for me to be able to help designers, developers, anyone really that has a purpose to make it to a certain stage. And I'm not going to come in here and say that stage is going from $50,000 a year to $100 a year or whatever, because at the end of the day, if you're not happy personally, success can be anything, right?
It's true.
And
what you define it
so I'm doing a TEDx, funny enough, in 2 days. And and that's part of the connection pillar, right? We met, we knew each other, we met, and we gave each other a great hug. And I'm trying to teach people the understanding of personal branding, the deeper effects of, as much as logos and color schemes and creating values are important, if you are not, and how do I explain this correctly? You are going to be the representation of how your brand and your business grows. Right. That is branding. Yep. I like to really put it in emphasis of a story I heard where, have you ever heard that scientific story where they took crystals and they put one in one room and they put one in another room to watch them grow? It was a scientific experiment where they put crystals in an environment where they would grow. In one room, they were just very positive in the room and they did a lot of positive things. And then in the other room, they did a lot of negative stuff, yelling and throwing and all that stuff. Yeah. The positive room ended up growing very symmetrical blue crystals. Wow. The negative room ended up growing red, jagged type crystals. Wow. And it just showed the power of energy. Yeah. I like to put that into perspective for people because your business is going to grow around your mindset. That is branding. To me, leadership is branding.
Got it.
And so my speech is actually on the branding principles, the basic branding principles of what I consider connection, contribution, and confidence. It's about teaching people basically how to build themselves through these branding principles. And funny enough, these principles are my values. They ended up becoming my values, right? So
those are your 3 pillars: connection,
confidence and contribution.
Yeah. Awesome. And do they go in that order, or is it connection, contribution?
They all work simultaneously, but they definitely, I strategically put them in a place of, have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah. So it's very similar to that. I didn't know that until after I started building out my pillars.
Wow.
But it was funny enough because right after you hit the security pillar, you hit the connection pillar, and then you hit the confidence pillar, and then you hit the contribution. They name it differently, but they're all similar concepts. And so really teaching people that are at that point where they're ready to thrive off building connection. I feel like it's very similar to business growth. You need to start building those connections, and then you start building into the confidence phase, how you're going to leave your what you're going to grow, what's your legacy, and then contribution. How are you going to leave your legacy behind?
It's powerful. Wow. So one of the things I love about this show is not just amazing conversations like this, but we incorporated something at the very beginning of social impact. That's what this show is all about, is doing social impact and having a challenge for people that are watching, people that are listening to this, whether they're in their car, sitting in front of their laptop, or on their phone, and coming up with some sort of challenge that we can do, and we can challenge them to do, but we're going to go out and do ourselves and document and add into this episode. So my last question for you, actually I have one more that'll come after, but my question for you right now is, what is the challenge? What is something that you would like the people that are listening and watching to go out and do today?
Yeah, I think starting from that connection pillar, because I think that it's the first hurdle a lot of people have to go through, is just have it on your agenda to build one new connection a day. It can be anyone. You can just call someone you haven't talked to in a long time. You can meet someone on the street. I mean, for me, for example, I used to be very big. I used to hate small talk. I was like always like, ugh. And now I'm like very prone to meet people. Like I'm like, oh, what do you do? And like I really genuinely care about what other people's lives and what they're doing are. Yep. So utilize that as an opportunity to build a connection. What do you do? Oh, maybe we can have a coffee sometime, or maybe we can help each other in some way down the road. And so I would put that as a challenge. Okay. Just building one new connection a day. If it be a phone call, if it be meeting someone on the street, and allow yourself to open up to build new connections, new people.
Well, there you have it. Go out and build one connection a day. Between now and the next episode will be about a week. So that gives you an opportunity to build 7 new connections. And it's also going to get you out of your comfort zone. If you're an introvert, if you're not the type of person that normally do that. But I want you guys to complete this challenge. We're going to complete this challenge. And if you don't, you'll be swimming with the fishes, capiche? So that'll being said, if people want to get in contact with you, if they're a gym owner, or if they're interested in learning more about you, or want to hear about your TED Talk, watch it online, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you are a gym owner, a leader in the gym space looking to make it to that next stage, you can definitely go to gymmark.com, hear more about that. We could set up a call to go through that. But anyone else that's just willing to educate, we are actually rebranding our course, which is actually a personal branding course. And at the end of September, we're going to be releasing micro courses, free micro courses. This is going to turn into a full-fledged, 1 week community-based situation where we're going to go through the course with everyone. But if you're willing to want to learn more about that, honestly, you can just DM me through Instagram or Facebook, even LinkedIn. I'm a big component of LinkedIn. And you can DM me through there, and we can put you on the list. And so you can get one of those free mini courses when they come out.
Nice. That's cool. That's a really good opportunity for you guys to check that out. And then we'll get that information too and put it in the description of this video or wherever this is posted. So that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Love Gangster. I'm so grateful to have you guys here and for your support and watching and spending time with us today to listen about our stories and our perspectives as creatives, as designers. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm Adrian Boysel. And as always, keep looking up.
We came here to fill the void. I am love. I am peace. I am joy that can never be destroyed. I am